Okay, in chapter 8, we're actually going to be looking at hypothesis testing. And if you remember, this is one of two of the activities we're going to be looking at that relate to inferential statistics. Okay, and one we did in chapter 7 where we talk about estimating population parameters. So we tried to estimate the population proportion. We also estimated the population mean. Well, in chapter 8, we're going to be doing the other activity that is involved with inferential statistics. And that is testing a claim about some population parameter. So testing a hypothesis. So we're going to start out our hypothesis testing content with just an example to give you an idea, how exactly or what exactly are we doing, and there's some examples like this in the homework at the very beginning, but what I'm going to actually use is this gender choice drug, which kind of an easy one to wrap your head around. The claim from the company is that they increase your chances of having a baby girl. Okay, so we want to see from some experiments, some results below, what do we think about that claim? And we're just kind of going to use our own mind, our own judgment on this, and try to come to a conclusion about the statement or, our own, that hypothesis. So we're going to look at giving 100 different couples this drug who want to have a girl, and we're going to assume that the drug has no effect. So you always have some assumption that you are working from. So maybe you are skeptical that a drug like this could change the outcome or choose the gender of your baby. So you're going to assume, oh, this is not going to have an effect. Okay, the drug will not impact the gender of baby. So that's going to be the one I'm going to work from, and then make a assumption or make a conclusion about that particular assumption that particular hypothesis right there. Okay. Now we're going to look at two scenarios. Down here, we're going to look at an A and a B scenario and kind of like think about, what is the implication of that number of outcomes or that result. Okay, so let's look at first, A. Let's say we did our 100 couples and we ended up getting 53 girls born in the experiment. Okay, well, what are we going to conclude about, the claim or, what do we think about our assumption right there? That drug has no effect, okay? Well, 53 is very close to what? 50. And that's the normal expected amount of girls in a 100 birth, experiment right there. You normally expect about half of your children to be girls, half to be boys. The result 53 is close to 50. So we should not conclude that the gender choice product is effective. Okay, at increasing our chance of having a girl. And why? Why should we not include that? Well, 53, it is a little higher than 50%, but it's not statistically significantly higher than 50%. Okay, it's not far enough away from that. Okay, to warrant the drug doing what it says it does. So we would say there's not sufficient evidence to conclude that the gender choice drug is effective. Okay. Now, let's say we did a different experiment, though. Like, let's say we look at B experiment right here. And let's say we gave our 100 people the drug, and we ended up getting 95 girls born in the 100 children that we had. What would you think about the drug's claim to fame there? Okay. Well, if we ended up having 95 girls in 100 births, that would be extremely likely to happen by, or extremely unlikely to occur by chance. So, you're probably not going to have that happen by chance. Why? Well, you normally expect about 50, and 95 is so far away from that. You could have had a really rare event happen, so you can definitely explain it that way. Like, you really had a rare event. But, because of that rare event rule, we are rejecting that idea. Like, that idea is what we're going to throw away. And what we ended up doing here is we actually go with the alternative. This situation is evidence to support the gender choice drug being effective. Okay. So we would actually reject our original assumption. Okay. So we would reject that the drug has no effect, which was what we assumed happened, and we have evidence to support the drug being effective. Okay. Now this example right here, I specifically picked the number like something close to 50, something close to 100, some bigger numbers. But think about what if you had like 70 girls born, like 70. Would that be enough for you to say that it increases the chance of having a girl? Or, maybe 75. Like maybe, you're looking a little bit further away from 50% and you need a little bit further. So any of these amounts, like 60, 65, 70, sometimes it's hard to determine, like, is that enough to say it's effective or not, right? So some people are like, well, 65 is not far enough away from 50%. And so how do we do this mathematically? Well, you'll see in this chapter like how we test claims objectively. There are obviously numbers that we will get from our calculator to give us hard, fast values that we will use when we determine the conclusion for a hypothesis test.